Will everyone please join me in Gashto and repeat the Nembutsu with me? Namo Amitabutsu. Namo Amitabutsu. Namo Amitabutsu. Namo Amitabutsu. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the last Sunday service for the month of March. It's already the end of March. I feel like I just got used to writing 2023 on all of my documentation, and already we are approaching the end of March and going into April. This year seems to be moving by really, really quickly. For today's Dharma talk, for the Dharma School students, we are once again talking about the second treasure. We have three treasures. We have the Buddha, say that again louder, Dharma, very good. And the last one is very good, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So the Dharma, once again, talks about the truth, right? One of the truth, the great teaching of the Buddha. One of the truths that we, sometimes don't like to talk about, right? That there are the truths of the suffering, right? And the truths that how we experience suffering, right? And there are three sufferings that big three sufferings that we talk about. And that's there's four sufferings. There's birth, old age, sickness, and death. Today, I'd like to talk a little bit about the concept of sickness, right? When the Buddha, or actually he was still Prince Siddhartha at the time, was curious about the outside world, when he was so caught up in pleasure and nothing but good things, he wanted to explore outside. And so when he explored outside for the first time, he saw an older man, right? He saw an older gentleman. And he talked to his chariot person, Champa, and asked him, what is that? And Champa replied, that's change. That is inevitability, right? That's going to happen. And, the Buddha asked, is that going to happen to me? To which he replied, yes, it is. The second time he went out, he saw another sighting. That was the sighting of sickness, right? He saw a person probably really, not having a good day and, probably displaying some real symptoms, as we call them, right? Symptoms. So one of the things that the Buddha, realized too, that as healthy and as young as he was at that time, Prince Siddhartha, he also was susceptible to sickness, as we all are. Oftentimes, and for many of us who are younger and people who feel young at heart, we think to ourselves, I am not going to get sick, or I am so healthy, or I do all these things every day, I exercise every day, or I eat the right food, or take the right supplements, right? All of these things. And we think to ourselves, I'm never going to get sick. So I would first like to thank the congregation, because many of you who already know this, but because now she is fully back to work and she is currently doing service right now at the White River Temple, you all probably know that my wife, Reverend Cynthia Saki of White River Buddhist Temple, caught COVID. Oh no. Thankfully, she now has tested negative and she is feeling healthy and she is back to work and everything is good. But during that time, we had to make some real major changes into our routine, right? Into our daily lives. Because COVID is still a pretty serious, virus. We had to sleep in separate bedrooms. We had to use different bathrooms. We had to eat at different times, right? All the things that became routine to us, all the things that were so regular, right? Getting up, eating breakfast together, having lunch together, having dinner together, all of those things had to change, right? And it's because Reverend Cindy got sick. And it's not because, this is her fault or I'm saying, oh, how could you get sick, right? But it's because these things happen, right? Sickness happens. As in Buddhism, suffering happens, right? People often confuse, I think, the first noble truth of the Buddha, which is life is suffering, right? But if you actually translate from Pali or in sort of translate the language, it says that suffering occurs, right? There is suffering in life, right? We experience highs and lows. We experience this bumpy road that we call life. One of those things that upsets that is sickness. Now, for our younger students, sometimes we may think, oh, great, I get sick. That means I get to stay home from school and I don't have to go and listen to a boring lecture, or I don't have to go in and I don't have to do homework, right? We think we're probably getting away with something. But as we get older, right, as we become older, we have more responsibilities and more things to take care of. We dread getting sick. We totally don't want to do it. Now, of course, if we do get sick, we stay back and we try to limit our time going out, try to do our best to rest and recover. But then when we come back to work or when we come back to the study, we realize we have so much to catch up on. Oh my gosh, I've been putting this thing off because I had to rest and recover. I've been putting this thing off because I had to rest and recover. Now I have to catch up on all the articles that I have to write, all of these things. So when we become older, becoming sick is something that's really, really we get worried about. But I think one of the things that we have that is sort of, I think, an illusion is that we can control when we get sick. We can control when the sickness happens. We definitely can do all that we can. We definitely can do all that we can to try and prepare or to try and prevent the sickness from occurring, right? We can do all that we can. We're all wearing masks right now. All of us probably wash our hands a whole lot more, right? But then when the sickness does come sometimes, right? Sometimes we could panic or sometimes we just go, oh no, and we go into this huge state of worry. But the Buddha's teaching teaches us this, is that sometimes getting sick is inevitable. Sometimes, we are going to get sick in our lives. There's probably, we probably can go 1, 2, maybe even 3 years without catching a cold or catching the flu. And, speaking on behalf of myself, I still have not yet, as far as I know, have not caught COVID. And then everyone's telling me, oh, you better be prepared to catch it. And I'm like, don't jinx me. But at the same time, right, what if I do catch it? These are things that we constantly sort of worry about on a daily basis. Now, again, this doesn't mean that we don't prepare ourselves for getting sick. This doesn't mean that sickness is something that should be dreaded, but at the same time shouldn't be left, unchecked either. Sickness is, I think, one of the main things that the Buddha was preparing us for when he was teaching us, right? How we treat the sickness is that it occurs and that it is a truth. The Buddha taught us that this is just a part of life. This is a part of reality. This doesn't mean that we should be carefree, right? The Buddha taught critical and self-reflective thinking. So when the time comes that we do become sick, we think to ourselves sometimes, and this is dangerous, that, oh, I can push through it, or, oh, I'll still go and get this thing done, right? But then what the Buddha taught us is self-reflection, introspection, teaching us if we are sick, look deep within ourselves and consider what we do, how we conduct ourselves. Do we go out? Probably not, because I could possibly get somebody else sick. But at the same time, right, this doesn't mean that we live our lives in fear and constantly worrying about, sickness either. This is also a very big concept of the middle way in Buddhism with Shakyamuni Buddha, but I won't go into that just yet. Right now, I still want to, talk about the first concept of, one of the second sufferings that we suffer on a daily basis, and that is that of sickness. We all get sick sometimes. But the Buddha teaches us that when this does occur, right, not to panic and not to really, and again, to accept this occurrence as it is, but also to take care of ourselves as well. there is a balance, I believe, that the Buddha was trying to teach us in these terms. That as we are human, all of us are prone to sickness from time to time. These things do happen. But it's not something that we take lightly, but it's not something that we live in fear of either. All of these things, will eventually sometimes lead to us becoming sick. So with this in mind, Dharma School students, I leave you with this message. Listen to your body. Listen to yourself, listen to your body. Listen to how you're feeling. Listen to, listen to yourself. Listen to your hearts. Listen to everything. These are very important messages that the Buddha was trying to tell us from a young age. We all will become sick, no matter how young we are or how old we become. Sometimes sickness does happen. And this is something we must always be careful. In this regard, like I said, listen to yourself and then think very critically about, when you do get sick. Should you go out? Should you, should you leave? And then, of course, now with us, we wear masks. Little things here and there, I think, teach us about the impermanence and the interdependence of all things. Something that the Buddha was desperately trying to tell us from the time that he was enlightened. So with that, I would like to wish you all a very happy spring. Thank you for coming to the last Sunday in March. And please continue to take care of yourselves and listen carefully to yourselves and your body. Please join me in that. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. You all please join me in that. To reveal the true teaching, it is the largest sutra of the Buddha of immeasurable life. The central purport of this sutra is that Amida, by establishing the incomparable vows, has opened wide the Dharma storehouse, and full of compassion for small, foolish beings, selects and bestows the treasure of virtues. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Happy spring. The flowers are all starting to come out. I'm certain that everyone has noticed many places around Tacoma and probably in your local area. The cherry blossoms are starting to bloom, and we have some beautiful blossoms right outside in front of our temple now. So when you leave today, please take a good chance to take a look at those blossoms. They're beautiful. I even posted a picture of it and put it on social media because I was like, oh, it's so beautiful. I gotta do that. I still haven't did it in social media, but so today I'd like to talk about again the true teaching of the Pure Land Way. And I think Shiwan Tony captures it beautifully in this opening paragraph of this Kyogyo Shincho, or the teaching, realization, and practice, true teaching and true teaching, practice, and realization of the Pure Land Way. And captures it by kind of painting this beautiful image of Amida Buddha's Pure Land. Now, how you choose to take this symbology is largely up to you. But how many of you have been to a concert? Yes, a huge concert hall, and you probably one of my best and most fun memories was Reverend Candace Shibata of Stockton. At the time she was working at Berkeley, and I was just an average student at the Institute of Buddhist Studies. She was so nice because she knew that I enjoyed the music of Hans Zimmer. Do you all know who Hans Zimmer is? Hans Zimmer is a conductor, composer, and a creator of a lot of movie soundtracks. And he was doing a tour of. He was actually doing a tour of the of his soundtrack music, and he actually came to Berkeley. And so I was so enthralled by it. And basically, it was at the Berkeley Amphitheater. right? And this is one of my best memories going. And it was so wonderful because all of us were able to sit in this huge amphitheater and listening and watching this beautiful music. One of the best parts of that concert was actually when you all know the Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman movies. That he had a bunch of these women musicians come to the front of the stage, and they just started rocking out to the Wonder Woman theme. And it was probably one of the most exhilarating experiences. They were having the lights flashing, and it was just a really moving experience. So it really just captured me and just moved me with Hans Zimmer's beautiful song. I really can't wait to see Hans Zimmer again in concert. And because it's Seattle, you can bet I'm going to be there because my new favorite music of his comes from the movie Dune. And if you haven't seen that movie yet, I would watch it just for the soundtrack. The imagery of it is also beautiful. This is the kind of feeling that I believe we try to resonate with all the time we come to temple and the time that we go to Nishi Honganji, our head temple in Japan. And one of the main practices is to echo the teachings of Amida Buddha or Bodhisattva Dharmakara, Shakyamuni Buddha, and our founder Shinran Shonin. One of these other experiences I'd love to talk about is going to Nishi Honganji in Japan, entering those huge temple doors, listening to the beautiful chanting of professionals, professionals who sound so beautiful in their chanting, echoing this beautiful teaching. It stirs this feeling, it resonates. It makes you really feel this echo and this comfort of the Dharma. It should be stirring this. It should be stirring and listen. It should be stirring this feeling of resonance within you when you listen to the chanting of Shokin Ge and any of the other chants that echo through the Dharma halls. This is one of the images that actually comes from the Sutra of the Measurable Life. And actually, unfortunately, I don't have a picture of it right now, but one of these days I will have to borrow from Reverend Cindy's temple, as she has many pictures of Amida Buddha's Pure Land. And in Amida Buddha's Pure Land, you see this. Amida Buddha, of course, is in the center, but there's huge attendance of monks and bodhisattvas all listening to the resonating image of the Dharma. When we feel these things, it is because the teachings of Bodhisattva Dharmakara, or would later become Amida Buddha, resonate with us. And that is that all sentient beings are welcomed to the pure. All sentient beings are saved by Amida Buddha. These were the incomparable vows that Shinran Shonin was talking about. So with these teachings, that we can't just, I believe actually these teachings of the Pure Land Sutras aren't meant to just be read in a textbook, right, like in the classroom. Now, of course, in order to study and in order to gain an understanding, you sometimes have to be in that atmosphere of listening to a professor, writing things on the board, having them explain things. But for us as Gilbert Teacher Buddhists, one of our main practices is gathering all together in a sacred space like this and listening and deeply intaking Amida Buddha's message to all of us that all sentient beings are going to be pure. This message of total acceptance and total non-discrimination resonates so much with many of us, as we are so far away from the time of the original Shakyamuni Buddha. But because it is so beautiful, over the years and over the centuries, Nishi Honganji has created beautiful melodic chants and taken inspiration from the Tendai school of Buddhism to listen to some of these beautiful chants. Today, we chanted Jusei, Boncho Seidan, Isi Jodo, right? We probably can recite it without even using a book. But actually, there is a beautiful version of this chant called Rikyoku that's often done at Nishi Honganji in Japan. And it kind of sounds a little like this. So, with Buddhist monks or Buddhist priests at Hongan, it's one of the most moving things I've ever listened to. I hope to, in the future, bring some of these more melodic chants to us and encourage all of us to try and practice them. As I believe music and melodic chanting is part of what makes this tradition so accessible. We would never dream of doing a service without singing a gatha with you. This is because gathas take the time to express our deep emotional feeling of our appreciation to this teaching. Where would we be without our wonderful member, Dharma to play the piano for us every day, every Sunday? Well, of course, she is wonderful, and thanks to modern technology, she sends the recordings of her piano playing when she can't be here in person. How wonderful we are to be in this time of modern age technology. But again, one of the biggest aspects of Kiran's words is the idea of this huge hall, this huge land, this huge place where all of us can gather and listen to the beautiful teachings of the Dharma, whether that be in the temple, whether that be at Nishi Honganji, whether that be in any temple in DCA, or even in our own homes. We have many opportunities to come together and listen to the Buddha's teaching of immeasurable light and immeasurable life. This is Amida Buddha. I can't think of a better example than going to a concert, becoming moved, and listening to this emotional music being played to, and having us really move with this music. This is why I feel that we come to service as well, because not only are the rituals and the teaching beautiful, but the fact that we are all here able to receive it together as one also moves us as well. When we all chant together, we don't become, just me, right, or us, or me, myself, and I. We become all of us chanting as a huge group, realizing just for a moment, if necessary, that we are part of a greater picture, that we are all interdependent, and that we all can chant this as one. This is why I encourage chanting again and again and again. Yes, silence is wonderful when you sit in Zazen, for those of you who are interested in Zen Buddhism. That's a good practice too. But for us as Buddha Buddhists, to recite and praise the Dharma as Shakyamuni Buddha has taught to us, this is one of the greatest aspects of our practices as Buddha Buddhists, I can feel. When all of us chant here together, it always moves me. When it was a huge height of the pandemic, and we were resorted to attending temples through either YouTube or Zoom, it was hard for me because I was the only one chanting. And yes, I may have a bit of an ego and I love to hear myself chant, but it's never the same when I don't get to hear other voices chant with me. It's never the same when there aren't other fellow travelers of the Dharma chanting and reciting and praising the same chant that I am. There is something more bigger, I think, that we have to open ourselves up to when we come here to the temple. And that is the message of interdependence and the message of praising the virtues of Amida Buddha. How can we do this but chant and recite Namo Amida Buddha? So in closing, I would like to encourage all of you to, once again, when you open the books and chant with me. Don't be embarrassed. I'm not, when I'm listening to the chant, I'm not listening with, oh, are you on the right key? Or, oh, is this, are you chanting at the right gate? I'm just happy and very grateful that we are all chanting the Buddha's teachings together. So I'd like to thank you all for coming today for our Sunday service. Please, I guess in the Northwest, when it's spring, it still needs rain from time to time. But definitely enjoy the sun when it comes out and enjoy the beautiful blossoms and contemplate on that part of life. Please join me in that. To reveal the true teaching, it is the largest sutra of the Buddha of immeasurable life. The central purport of this sutra is that Amida, by establishing the incomparable vows, has opened wide the Dharma storehouse and full of compassion for small foolish beings, selects and bestows the treasures of virtues. Namo Buddhaya. Namo. Namo. Namo.